Hi, and welcome to Old Time Knowledge. Well, I am so excited about this video, y'all. I am recording the audio after I've already made this, but this is butterscotch pie. I got this recipe from Taste of Home magazine. I have never had butterscotch pie before today. I've never known anyone who made butterscotch pie, but I saw this recipe and I thought, I love butterscotch and I just have to make this and see what it's like. So I'm going to take you along with me as I make this pie. And spoiler alert, this pie is amazing. I love this so much. I'm going to be making this regularly. So anyway, I'm starting out with a store-bought pie crust, and it's just one of these rolled up crusts, and I've had it thawing out, so it's not frozen anymore. And I'm just going to put it in my pie tin, and it gives really specific instructions on how to prepare the pie crust. And I've never done these steps before. If y'all make a lot of pies, like a whole lot of pies, you might have done this before. But this was new to me. I've made all kinds of pies before, but I've never had instructions that told me to put my pie crust in the pie dish and cover it with aluminum foil and put like pie weights or beans or something in it and bake it to get the crust totally brown first. Whenever I've had recipes that have had you brown the crust first, I've just always pricked the crust several times and then baked it. But this one specifically says do not prick the crust. You're putting it in the pan and then you're going to put a couple of sheets of aluminum foil over it so that it's nice and sturdy, and then you're going to fill the pie crust with, as they say, pie weights, or you can use some dried beans or something like that, and then that'll work. So I'm just getting this pressed out over the pan, and then I will do my best effort to like fix the edge, and we'll go on to the next step. The instructions specifically say to flute the edge of the pie crust. Honestly, I just was having a little bit of trouble with this pie crust, but I don't usually flute the edges of my pie crust, so I'm kind of clumsy at it, so I just did the best I could. And in the end, y'all, I just don't really care how the edge of the pie looks. I want to know how is the pie going to taste. To me, the most important thing is how does something taste, because there's a lot of beautiful foods that have no flavor, and then there's a lot of foods that look kind of, well, we'll say rustic, that are absolutely delicious, and that is what this is going to be. So just bear with me. Laugh at me if you want to. It's totally fine. I don't care. Just laugh at how I'm doing this pie crust, but it's going to work out just fine. So now it's time for me to get the aluminum foil and line this pie crust. And the idea is to get the rim or the edges of the crust to sort of get browned a little bit, and then I'll take the pie out, take the beans and stuff out, and then put it back in the oven until the bottom of the pie crust is totally browned. And then once that happens, then I'll start preparing the filling. So I'm just, as you can see, I've got 2 sheets of aluminum foil in this pie crust. I'm just kind of pressing it in the middle just a little bit, not too much, because I don't want to mess up the crust or anything. And I keep a couple of jars of dry beans on the back of my stove. Why? I don't know. I just put them in jars at one point, and they've been there so long I don't think I'll cook them. But it'll be perfect for me to use the jar of black beans for this particular task. So let me get those and pour them into this pan. See? I knew these would eventually get used for something. These are some old beans, y'all. So if you're wondering, like, why don't you cook them or whatever? Just because I think they were some that I had left over from when I was doing a canning project, and I had these left from a huge bag, and I put them in a jar, and they've just been there. So they'll serve as a great pie weight. So I have them all in here. Let me get this in the oven, which I've preheated to 425 degrees. And then it says bake it for between 10 to 15 minutes until the edges of the crust have started browning, and then take it out. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, so now it's been about 13 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and turn this off because I looked at it and the edges of the pie crust are definitely kind of getting golden brown. So I'm going to take this out and show you, and then I'm going to remove those beans and the aluminum foil from the pie shell so I can get it back in the oven and get the bottom of the pie shell browned. I forgot to mention, it does say when you're browning the edges, have it on the bottom rack of your oven. So if you make this pie, you can do that. Now I've got it back in, and you see now the bottom of the pie is starting to brown. The outside is obviously much more brown. So I'm going to go ahead and take this out because at this point I think it's done. This baked for like another, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 minutes. And I think the bottom of the pie crust is browned enough now. So I'm going to get the filling prepared. So I've got to get those ingredients together, and I will be right back. Alrighty, so I have my 6 tablespoons of butter. I'm getting those in this little pot. I have to melt them completely, and then once they are totally melted, then I'll be adding in flour. I went ahead and got all my ingredients off to the side so they'll be ready to go because these ingredients get added in pretty quick succession. How do we say that? Well, anyway, they get added pretty quickly together. And so I just need to have them all ready. So now that the butter is just about melted, I've got my little 6 tablespoons of flour ready, and I'm going to add that and use this fork to stir it in until it's smooth. And once the flour is all mixed into the butter, then I will be adding in the next ingredient, which is 1.5 cups of brown sugar. And I'm going to get that all stirred in. And then I will be adding it to the burner, and then I'll be adding my next ingredients, which is 2 cups of milk, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and I'm just getting that all stirred in. And now it says for me to just keep stirring this and keep stirring this and cooking this until the mixture thickens and becomes bubbly. And then once it thickens and becomes bubbly, then it'll give me the next step. So I'm just doing a whole lot of stirring here, y'all, and obviously it's sped up because otherwise this would be a slow and boring thing to watch. And in fact, I'm really speeding this up, and I'm even going to cut out a little bit just to make it go faster. But what it says to do is to keep stirring it again until it's thickened and it's bubbling. And then once that happens, I'm supposed to turn the temperature down to low and let it cook for 2 more minutes while I continue stirring. And once this part's done, then I'll be adding the next ingredients. But I'm guessing this part just has to do with thickening it up. So I'm just finishing this up, and then I will move on to the next step. Now I'm taking it off the heat. I have 3 egg yolks there, and I'm mixing in about 1 cup of the mixture into the 3 egg yolks, and then once that's all stirred in, then I put this back into the pot and stir it up. And I'm going to keep stirring it until it's all mixed and put it on the burner for another 2 minutes and let it come to a gentle boil for 2 more minutes, and then it'll be ready to put into the pie shell. Now I will tell you that while I did this, I realized that I must have gotten a tiny bit of the egg white in with the egg yolk because there were some little pieces of the egg white that started solidifying in the mixture, but I just used a fork and got those out. It was not a big deal. I had an egg yolk break, which is why that happened. But anyway, so now this is done, and I'm going to get ready to pour it in the pie shell, but first I have to put in some vanilla. So I just put in a teaspoon of my homemade vanilla, which I will link in the show notes below how I make that. And then next it's time for me to make the meringue. So then I have the 3 egg whites from the yolks earlier, and those really are just whites. And so I've got them in a cold bowl. It's always best when you're making meringue or anything like this. It's good when you have a nice cold bowl. 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. And y'all, I have had that same container of cream of tartar forever. I don't know if that stuff ever expires, but I don't know. I just keep using it, and it seems to work fine. So 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. And over the course of mixing this, I'll be adding 1/2 cup of sugar. I'll be adding it a little bit at a time, but I'm going to go ahead and speed everything up and get started turning this into some good meringue to put on top of the pie. And I'll show you how that looks as it goes. And of course this says to make sure you spread the meringue all the way to the edges of the pie crust. So that's what I did, and I'm putting this in the oven now for 12 to 15 minutes at 350. So I've reduced the temperature, and when it's done, I'll take it out. And it actually ended up baking about 20 minutes, but it's ready now. Okay, I have to let it cool till it's about room temperature before I put it in the fridge. And then I'll take it and put it in the fridge for a couple of hours at least, and then it'll be ready to serve. Don't shortcut cooling it to room temperature because it will start to sweat when you put it in the refrigerator if you do. So now it's been in the refrigerator for a couple of hours because I did leave it out on my counter actually for a few hours before I put it in my fridge, and then I refrigerated it for a few hours. So now here it is, and it's ready for me to cut and try a slice. Yes, we're having this for Thanksgiving tomorrow, but I am not going to serve this to my family if I don't know what it tastes like. So I'm going to have a slice right now, and I'm also going to report to you how it is. So let me go ahead and cut a little slice. Okay, and somebody is surely going to watch this, and they're going to see that I have a metal pie pan, and they're going to see that I'm cutting it with a metal knife. Yes, I know, it's not ideal to cut pie with a metal knife if it's in a metal pie pan. I do this all the time, and I've never had a problem with my pie pan. It doesn't have scratches, it doesn't have nicks or anything like that. This is a good pie pan. Anyway, I'm going to cut this, and let's just see how the bottom does, though. I'm not sure. I'm not convinced that I've gotten the bottom cut all the way, but I can't wait to try this, y'all. I hope this is good as it seems because I am crazy about butterscotch. It's one of my very favorite things. So let me get my little pie server and get this slice of pie out. Okay, let's see here. I can already tell the bottom of the crust is sticking to the pan a little bit. That's okay. Y'all, this is going to be a messy slice, but I don't care. It's the first slice, and I can make sure subsequent slices come out much neater and much nicer. Really, it's the filling that I care most about, honestly. Let's just be real. Let me just cut out this little bit of crust, though, because I don't want it to go to waste, because crust is good. And I'm just going to add this in. Don't worry, y'all. I'm going to get to trying this in just a minute. Just be patient. Just be patient. All right. Yep, it's always easier after that first slice comes out because then you can just kind of see what you're working with, and if you need to get under the pie better with the pie server, you can. Again, I never promised this was going to be fancy or pretty. I'm just aiming to have a pie that tastes delicious. So this definitely looks delicious to me. I'm going to get a spoon and give it a try. Okay, yes, so the crust is kind of mimicked a little bit on this slice, but I don't care. I'm going to enjoy trying this anyway. And the thing I care about the most, just like I said when I was putting the crust in the pan and getting it ready, is I care more about how it tastes than how it looks. Some of y'all can worry about being real fancy with your pie crust if you want to. I totally respect you for that. But I'm just trying to make food that tastes good. This looks so good, y'all. Oh my goodness gracious, that is amazing. Why have I never made this pie before? I don't even know. If you've ever had butterscotch pudding, this is better than that, and it's in a pie shell. If you haven't had butterscotch pudding, what are you waiting for? You need to have some butterscotch pudding, or you need to make one of these pies. You know, I just cannot tell you, this is so good. And it's a good thing that I've made this for Thanksgiving tomorrow, because otherwise I might eat this whole pie by myself over a couple of days. But this way, I have no choice but to save it, and my family can enjoy eating this tomorrow, and each of us will get a slice, and there might be one slice or so left over. We'll see. But anyway, make this pie, y'all. Make this pie. This is so good. I just love it. This is definitely going to be a new tradition for me. And I'm sorry, I'm definitely talking with my mouth full. But I mean, this is amazing. This is so good. Why can't you get butterscotch anywhere anymore, y'all? I mean, you can't get butterscotch syrup. You can't hardly find butterscotch candy. That's something I'm gonna make. For Christmas, I'm gonna see about making some butterscotch candy. Anyway, let me know what you think. Do you think you'll make this? Have you made this before? I want to know what you think, so leave it in the comments below. If you like this video, give it a like, give it a share, and I thank you so much for watching, and I wish you a very happy Thanksgiving. Bye-bye.